Hey bikers, thanks for tuning in to a Biker Man video. Today, I took my own advice and took a new route to an old destination. Stick around to see how it turned out. So, as some of you may have noticed watching my videos, I've actually got some pretty cool areas to ride near me within, several miles or 10, 15, 20 miles of my house. We've got parks, paved trails, I've got some single track mountain biking, some gravel, and as awesome as each of those locations are, they're sort of like disconnected, disjointed, isolated. And this ride, like a lot of my other rides, the whole point of the ride is to try to connect different areas. In this case, finding a cool route to a local sports park that has a lake and some paths going around it, and trying to find a route from my house to there is kind of difficult, and trying to mix a 15 or 20 mile ride into some sort of coherent loop or route can be tough. And don't get me wrong, exploring new routes, new paths leads to finding new things and can be exciting. And on this day, I found some new trails. I found a little Jeep road that I rode a little bit. But the truth is that exploring is time consuming, and I'm busy. And sometimes, even when I'm not busy, I just want to get a nice, difficult, long ride in. It's hard to do that if you're trying to find new routes and trying to find ways to get to where you're trying to go. And here's the little mountain biking area that I found, which was awesome, and I'm so glad that I did that. But on this day I had the time. On other days, I'd like to just get out and get a path, find a path to take me to this without, having to explore for so long. So, for a lot of this ride, I was thinking to myself, what a wasted opportunity it was in my area that there wasn't more of a master planned sort of biking, hiking, walking trail constructed, because our area is essentially a suburb in progress. Most of the housing is relatively new within the last 10 to 15 years. And I think just what a wasted opportunity it was without having sort of a master plan to connect all of these beautiful areas, these beautiful wild areas, these trails, sports parks, nature preserves, just regular walking trails. What an opportunity they had to connect those things into sort of a coherent system. And I think that we're seeing in the country, a lot of big cities, and we're close to Dallas. I think Dallas is in the middle of doing this. They're trying to make these master plans after the fact. They're trying to connect the public spaces that they have after, but the truth is that it's time consuming, it's complicated. I would imagine it's much more costly than for, a city, while it's planning, while it's offering permits and allowing builders to build and schools and parks to be built, to just say, hey, we're going to connect these things with some sort of biking, hiking, walking, running infrastructure. And it's you can see here, like this area, there's tons of places like this. All of our neighborhoods, all of our parks, all of our schools look like this 10 or 15 years ago. It's just such a bummer that they couldn't have done a better job connecting them. And so, I was out there on my ride contemplating this, and I just, I got to thinking, what would I have liked to have seen? I want to see the parks connected, gravel, paved, sort of preserve some of the wooded areas and make paths going through there. And where that's not possible, having bike lanes that are, in areas where, maybe there was pre-existing developments, or where it's just not possible to have, connected paved paths like this one. And, how do they make that happen? I guess that's as much a question for you and my neighbors and, fellow citizens. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But for me, like, if you're going to issue a permit to a developer to build a neighborhood, or, a shopping center, or when you're building schools, require that they have some sort of public access trail. And while trying to connect them to your parks, your trails. I grew up in a city that wanted to grow its the art scene, because they had an art gallery there. And so when new businesses applied for permits, they required that those businesses install a public art display. And they, grew their notoriety of the art scene in the city. Something could be done similarly with biking and hiking, walking trails. And, why bother? I mean, it's safer. It's good for public health, mental health, exercise, quality of life. I think also, like, hiking, biking, walking trails, like, have a broader appeal. Sports parks are great, and there's a place for those, but not everybody plays sports. Mostly kids do. And so, give the rest of us stuff to do. Like, this is what you're seeing here. It's a beautiful kind of a trail. That kind of a thing is definitely possible. And, the truth is that I think that a coherent biking system gets cars off the street. It improves property values, if that's something that's important to you. I just feel like it's something that would just so positively impact so many people's lives. If nothing else, it would, create an aesthetic appeal to any city, and just make it more fun to get outside. And so, yeah, thanks for letting me get on my soapbox a little bit about that. This was like an hour and a half ride, and I just couldn't help but to think about it. I found some cool stuff while I was exploring, but again, like, if I wasn't having to ride dangerous roads to and from the trails, and I'm somebody who's kind of like more adventurous. I can't imagine what somebody who's just trying to get into bike riding, how they might feel. But if you didn't have to dodge traffic and you were able to ride a path like this one, and yeah, there's not going to be a lake next to every path, but can't you just leave the existing trees, the existing woods, and put some cement in for people to walk and to ride, to run? Maybe a couple benches where people could sit down and read and relax and enjoy their surroundings. Otherwise, you're dodging cars like this. And as you can see, there's plenty of opportunity to put in trails that really make a difference in people's lives. So, anyway, thanks again for tuning in to Biker Man. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down below. What are the trail systems like where you are? Are you dodging cars, or are you able to ride comfortably? Thanks again for tuning in. I will see you out there.